All right, testing. Let me see. All right, testing. Oh, do not need to hear myself. There we go. This should work. All right. If anyone is here yet, welcome to the live stream. I hope you all are doing good. This is a match being played among members of the local chess club between TANISH Selam, however you pronounce it, and Scott Cooper. So, hopefully you all are doing well and ready for some chess. I think they're just going to check the sort of stream link, just make sure it's working, and then get going. I have the moves coming in from my... Should probably actually switch, shouldn't I? Let me just go... I guess I should actually switch it, yeah. It's been a minute since I streamed, let alone on YouTube, so bear with me. But I think... Oh my gosh. Okay, this should work. Hopefully. Scott's gonna post my link. Amazing. Hopefully we get some views from that. And welcome viewers in advance. I hope you all are doing well. I'm just gonna do it like this. Okay, this should be perfect. From my perspective, I'm saying. Alright, now it's gonna be this. Alright, welcome to the match. It feels more official now. Sorry, the graphic is kind of just like all put together. Just a little bit sloppily, but it's all fine. Actually, we only have one viewer. I don't need some, like, corny introduction. Let me promote this on my Discord. How do I do it? All right. I am waiting for moves any minute, although I think Scott is going to be promoting it real quick. So, if any of you don't know me, my name is Daniel. I am a chess guy. Also, does it sound good? Oh yeah, I mean, it's been like... I assume the sound is good. I'd have to like turn on the volume here. Promoting it real quick. So... if any of you... Okay, seems fine. Alright. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, we have an exciting match coming up. We have Scott Cooper, who is rated 1551. Always a very interesting player to play against. I think my record with him is either equal or, maybe I have a 1-game advantage, but he started off with a few wins. So he's always been a sneaky, tough opponent against TANISH, who obviously is, one of the rising stars of the Waco chess community. I would say, it looks like based on tournament history, maybe he has taken a little bit of a mini hiatus. Oh, there are moves going, so let's go ahead and get started. So already we see an interesting opening. So TANISH with the white pieces plays e4, c5, and we see the move a3. Now a3 Sicilian is very interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't exactly know what the idea is. I assume you're trying to go b4, and maybe you're gonna do a reverse wing gambit. Scott plays g6, which is the correct move, because if you go b4, if TANISH tries to go b4, then the bishop on g7 is going to be very annoying. So moves are flying in, knight c3, bishop g7. Here TANISH plays bishop c4, developing his pieces pretty normally. And it'll sort of remain to be seen what Scott sort of commits to. Will he play d6? Will he play knight f6 first? Knight f6 unlikely because of e5. E6 is another setup, maybe going for an early d5 down the road. Scott goes e6, which is actually the top engine move as I see it. Not that really matters. The theoretical move is to go knight c6, which kind of maintains the flexibility and control of those dark squares, but e6 is what he chooses, which kind of blunts in this bishop, so it makes a lot of sense. TANISH goes d3, sort of establishing his own pawn chain, and now it looks like Scott might be taking a little bit of a think. Or not. He goes a6, preparing for the thrust b5. Now, normally, I think when in these structures as white, you want to either discourage b5 or prevent it. a4 would be a logical way to do it, but you just sort of use the tempo playing a3. So TANISH understandably plays bishop a2. We see knight c6. And, so far, kind of initial thoughts on the position. I mean, TANISH played an a3 Sicilian, so we'll see how it goes as the moves are coming in. Bishop e3 is on the board, hitting the pawn. Black would be advised probably just go d6, just protect the pawn. Really no need to go fancy with something like, queen b6, which while it attacks the pawn, well, A, I wouldn't be a fan of taking the pawn because of a move like rook b1, and B, it kind of lines your queen up with, it kind of pins your pawn, so seems like d6 would be a very simple move. Also, b6 is acceptable because you're protecting the pawn, but also bishop b7 is an interesting idea. I mean, I say idea, it's an interesting move. So, we'll see what they go for, but I think d6 is the most natural move. Oh, he goes b6. Interesting. So b6 is not bad at all. I probably would have gone d6. I think you're probably going to play d6 anyway. And maybe you want to keep your pawn on b7 to go like b5 and sort of, launch a queenside expansion. Like if you can imagine a position like maybe d6, knight e2, I'm just going to play b5, castles, b4. Now, computer's not a big fan of it for black, but you can sort of see the effect of like the bishop, the pawn, the knight supporting it, things like that. For the record, it says after takes, knight a4, and white is just doing solid. So b6 was playing the game, and maybe he has the flexibility of, going d5 a little later in the game. TANISH plays knight e2. Scott plays knight f6. All reasonable developing moves. One thing I would say with, in Sicilians is that if black hasn't played d6, you always have to watch out for e5. But here e5 doesn't work because of knight takes e5. And, maybe if I'm white, I try to think like, what if I go f4? But I think the problem is, maybe with f4 is that black has this knight g4 move attacking the bishop. And it could be a little bit tricky. So when I look at this, I'm kind of thinking, black maybe wants to go knight g4. Now I'm not sure how much it matters in this position, but probably first move I would consider is like h3 just to stop that. Computer is going to say that you can just ignore it and just like castle. This is not the game variation, but I think after knight g4, there's this square bishop f4, and the bishop is, looking pretty nice on f4. You can play h3 next move, and in the case of e5, well, e5 would just, not be a good move because you open up their bishop, you open up the d5 square, a lot of positional drawbacks. So you can just drop back to d2, you'll play h3 next, and black is going to have a load of weaknesses. So after knight f6, Tanish is taking a little bit of a think, which is understandable. I would say in these Sicilian positions, it's sort of very common to, take a little think here because you're thinking about knight g4. You're thinking about knight g4 and how you don't necessarily want to get rid of your dark square bishop or part ways from your dark square bishop, as I should say. So Tanish castles, which I think is very sort of valiant by him. Scott just castles as well, but it's sort of, good. Like, I probably would play, like, I know I'm, like, reading a lot of engine lines and things like that. I probably would play h3, which is not bad, but it is good that he sort of recognizes that knight g4 is not really a problem, because, you can go, like, bishop f4, or even, like, bishop d2, and then you, like, tempo the knight. But I think bishop f4 would make a lot more sense. I mean, quite frankly, you'd rather have your bishop on f4 or d2. I think f4 is a little bit of a better square. Also from f4, you can maybe hop into d6 at the right time. So, understandably, he wasn't worried, and I guess Scott didn't really feel the need to consider it himself and just castled pretty quickly. So, we have a pretty balanced game. We'll see what sort of happens. The bishop is kind of tucked away, but could be, kind of valuable down the road. Like, I'm kind of thinking of some structures where white could play f4, f5, and just try to crack open the position and, let the bishop reach its full potential. Maybe you have an idea of, like, queen d2 and bishop h6. I'm not exactly sure how effective it is here, compared to maybe, like, Dragon Sicilians, where you're always playing queen d2, bishop h6. But that could be a possibility. I'm trying to think about plans for both sides. I'm not really familiar with this structure necessarily. A3 Sicilian kind of, it's a little bit more unique. You just have this structure like c2, d3, and e4. So maybe you have a pawn chain pointing at the king side, which could indicate that you want to sort of attack there. So one move I would think about is f4. Some candidate moves I would think about like f4, queen d2. Maybe h3. I would be inclined to kind of have the prophylactic mindset and just play h3, but there are a lot of possibilities in this position. I even kind of wonder if d4 is a move here. It looks a little bit ludicrous, just given that you play d3 and then you play d4 move later, but maybe you just, oh wow, he plays d4. I predicted it. I didn't even necessarily, see the move beforehand. Now, the problem with d4, if you're watching this, whether on the live stream or you're rewatching this, is this move knight g4. And the difference between allowing knight g4 here and before the pawn is on d4 is that the bishop is partly responsible for the pawn. So now if black goes knight g4, you either have to give up your dark square bishop, or if you move the bishop, black can just take the pawn. And black would have two protectors of the pawn, two sort of attackers from white. And as we all know, the protectors are going to be fine against the attackers if they're equal. So, Scott did not go knight g4. He just took he took the pawn, which is the most natural response. You don't really necessarily think about like in-between moves, like when they strike in the center, which is understandable. I do think knight g4 should have been considered a little bit, but that's fine. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and I'd say normally you don't want to trade twice because it just kind of gives your opponent what they want, which is a pretty solid bishop on the d4 square, maybe neutralizing the dark square bishop from black. So, that would be Probably not the best move, but wouldn't be terrible. Bishop e7 is a possibility. So I'm thinking for black, well, now the structure's changed a little bit. It looks like it's essentially now closer to an open Sicilian, but with the moves a3 and like bishop a2 sort of, maybe with the moves a3 and bishop a2, inserted, and black just played like b6 and like e6 and delay pushing the d pawn. Probably needed h3 first. Yeah, I agree with that. I was saying earlier in the commentary that h3 is a move I would be very inclined to play, because then you have like freedom as like what to do, as far as like not letting the dark square bishop go. So maybe now, like after d6, like d4 is a viable option. So I think it's definitely reasonable to think that like h3 would have been a good move to sort of like a good preliminary move. Scott goes b5. So oftentimes in the Sicilian, you're kind of going for this b5 idea. You want to go b4, sort of soften, the queen side, just soften the queen side, and you also have a bishop that's sort of nicely complementing that. By the way, just as far as time goes, white has 39 minutes left, black has 41 minutes left. So it's very interesting stuff. Apparently b5 is not the absolute best move. Again, according to the engine. And I'm not just saying this, just reading engine lines, but I see this line as very concrete. Knight takes c6, d takes c6, and f4. I wonder if f4 is the only move there. The only move to keep an advantage. You know what I think it is? I think... So knight c6, d c6, f4... I think part of the idea is to go f5, maybe, actually. I don't know. Let's just say black does nothing. Does f5 work? Take. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I'm not, you're giving up a pawn. I'm not exactly sure if that's the best idea, but it looks good to me. So I think the idea was that when you play knight c6, you sort of move the d pawn away from protecting the e pawn. So now it's a c pawn instead of a d pawn, if that makes any sense. And so that would kind of make f5 a little bit more effective, because if you had played f5, if you play f5 like in this position generally, like let's say a5. Now f5 is not one of the top moves, so maybe everything I'm about to say is moot, but if you play f5, see, I'm bad at chess. f5 is not a good move, but let's see what's wrong with it. E takes, and it's not even saying to take back. It's saying, oh, you know what? There's like a queen trade possibility, I think. Also, there's just bishop takes, which kind of intacts the pawn structure or keeps the pawn structure intact. So feel free to just ignore the last like 3 minute sort of monologue I just went on. But you never know. It could be lurking. I think computer just likes takes and f4. Just generally, like you gain space. Maybe there's a possibility. I probably wouldn't say trade queens. I would think maybe queen e2 and rook d1 would be the more logical. Maybe queen f3 would actually be more ambitious. So, we'll see what sort of happens from there. TANISH did not quite go knight takes c6, which is understandable. He just went rook e1 first. So, rook to e1, what's the idea? I'm not exactly sure, but... maybe it's just a waiting move. Maybe you could have kept the rook on f1 just in case like an f4, f5 break ever worked. I'm not exactly sure. But I mean, I'm not criticizing the move. I think it's, it seems like a not bad move. And sometimes in chess, you just have to play enough not bad moves to win. So, and just be better than your opponent. So... again, knight g4 is not really a threat by black. Maybe if they went h5, they could get it in. But honestly, I don't really see why you would just waste the tempo playing h5. I think white could just play f3 or h3. And they're doing totally fine. Knight to e5 is on the board. So knight e5 might be trying to provoke f4. And now in this position, you would have another knight that could go g4. So here... if you go f4, black has the option. You could either go like knight c4 or knight g4. Knight g4, now the idea is that the knights are connected, and of course you are threatening to take the bishop. Knight c4 is also a decent move. I mean, in comparison, apparently knight e to g4 is way better, which is understandable, but if that didn't exist, the knight c4 would be decent, because you're also attacking the bishop, and you kind of force them to part ways with their bishop. So, I can definitely understand where the sides are coming from. Knight e5, sorry, f4 is not on the board. f3 is on the board. So TANISH has sort of the understanding and, sort of the understanding that knight g4 is an idea. So you don't really want to allow it. And now Scott pretty quickly plays knight c4, which I did sort of call out as an idea that maybe you want to go like knight c4. It's protected by the b5 pawn, and kind of forces you to like part ways with your bishop. I'd say forces. Like you want to keep this bishop, and also the pawn is threatened. So there's not really much you can do to just like not give up the bishop, but also chill. Like bishop c1 is just kind of sad. If you go bishop f2, I believe you can just take queen b1 and then just go back like nothing happened, and you're just up a pawn. So I do think TANISH will, be positionally forced to take the knight. And it's going to be an interesting imbalance because black is going to have the bishop pair, but also black's going to be saddled with a potential weakness on c4. The only way you can really defend it is to go d5, but d5 is going to be hard to accomplish. And then the pawn on d5 could be weak as well. So, 5 viewers, thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you are doing well. This is a local chess club match. TANISH Sealam versus Scott Cooper. TANISH is a rising star, 1800, probably like 11 or 12 years old if I had to guess. Maybe younger than that. Maybe he's like 10. This is on the board, by the way. Whereas Scott Cooper is a little bit of an older gentleman. I wouldn't necessarily say more experienced, although I think he has played tournaments longer than TANISH. And, just, lower rated, but obviously very ambitious. I believe it was Scott who challenged TANISH to the match. So, and TANISH agreed, which is a little bit surprising given the rating difference, because at that rating level, you sort of need, you need to do way better. You need to do really good to sort of, gain rating. Like TANISH, and if we ever are bored and have downtime, we can look into this. TANISH probably needs to score at least 3 out of 4, if not 3.5, to sort of, break even or gain rating. 2.5 probably doesn't do it, so we'll see what sort of happens. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the show. Just kind of chilling a little bit. This is where I kind of give my vocal cords a rest. A rest. Not like a rest. Like, you're arrested, but where I rest them and just kind of check stuff. Just make sure the link's out there and, like, everyone's just, like, chilling. There's some funny photos from their match so far. Good photos. Also, I haven't checked chat in a second. All right. How we doing? How's the chat doing? Hope you're having a good day. Yes, I think as far as this position goes, it looks like, well, now, because I thought previously the engine said it was slightly better for white, but now I think it's saying equal. So it's probably had a little bit of time to think. First move I would think of is queen e2, to try to attack the pawn. I do assume, though, that after queen e2, black has an easy d5, if I had to guess. And maybe, just maybe, like, if takes, there could be complications on the e-file, so I'm not exactly sure. I only say that because it's not one of the top engine moves. So yeah, queen e2. Oh, queen e2 is a blunder because of e5. Well, I am bad at chess. Well, yeah, e5 and the knight actually has nowhere to go. And e2 was the last square remaining. So, speaking of which, TANISH makes a very interesting decision. I say interesting because I don't know if it's good or bad. He plays e5 himself. Attacking the knight. So as I've said a lot in Sicilians, or said not a lot, but I've said already in Sicilians, if they haven't played d6, you want to sort of see if you can play e5 and sort of perturb the knight, right? Because now the knight is not really going to have a comfortable square to go to. You obviously can't go to like e4, g4. h5 is just goofy. So, or it looks goofy. It could actually be okay. Because you're attacking the pawn. And I feel like you'd have to play f4. Maybe there's something there. I'm not exactly sure, but I assume he's either going to go knight d5 or knight e8. Knight e8 looks like the more humiliating route. The more humble route. Wow, he doesn't go either of those. He does go knight h5, which is very interesting. Okay. Well, we'll go through sort of these moves real quick, and then I'll sort of catch you up to speed. Knight h5, sorry, knight h5 is what was played in the game, but knight e8, like, yes, it looks humble. You're moving the knight backwards, but you're attacking the pawn, and you always have, like, d6 ideas to sort of, like, undermine the pawn, then get your knight back into the game. I think knight d5 is more concrete. I think it just allows knight takes, and then apparently, I would have thought pawn f4, but engine's saying bishop f4. I guess you kind of keep that flexibility. You know, I think this pawn's weak, which is sort of a problem. I mean, you can always play bishop d7. Sorry, bishop b7, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. But anyway, that's not the game variation. e5 was on the board, and black played knight h5. So, very bold. Putting your knight on the edge of the board. You're attacking e5, and that's a serious threat. If you don't do anything about it, then black's just going to clean up a clean pawn. You know, they'll have like the f4 square to themselves as a center pawn, so you have to do something about it. There are a few things you can do. The top engine move, by the way, which I don't know if he's necessarily going to find. Actually, well, see, okay, this is why you don't just read the engine as a commentator. So, if you're watching this, if you're, like, criticizing me for my, like, you know, oh, he only reads the engine, I am trying to be better. G4 straight up traps the knight, and it's the only move. So, yeah, G4 traps the knight, and black just has to kind of go rogue. And I think TANISH will play G4. He'll certainly find it. And I think he'll go into it. Now, let me try to see without the engine. I'm starting lines off for myself. So G4, bishop takes E5, takes. The critical line is queen H4. But I think it's pretty straightforward. You just go like queen E2 or queen D2. You sort of protect mate, defend mate. And, I mean, they can take H5, but you just want a piece. So that's sort of what I am understanding from this. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to grab something real quick. Going to grab some leftover candy. Merry Christmas. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be doing... I haven't even had dinner yet. All I've had today was little sleep. Don't ask how much or how little. Some like fruit snacks and what'd you call it? Chips. Now I'm about to have candy, so clearly not the ideal diet, but I'm gonna eat something real probably after the stream, like real food. Need to see what's in the fridge. Will he or won't he find g4? He finds it, ladies and gentlemen. G4 is on the board, and Scott immediately snap takes the pawn. Maybe Scott knew that his knight was getting trapped, and he thinks he has an attack. When I say that, I'm not saying that he's wrong necessarily, but he could be gambling. I mean, Scott's kind of like that. He could go a little bit rogue sometimes. So, actually, let's do this. I hate saying a phrase and realizing it's completely incorrect. Define, go rogue. Behave erratically or dangerous. Okay, interesting. So I think that's sort of about accurate. Because he's giving up a piece, but the queen's gonna fling to h4. So we'll see what is going on. I mean, Tanish is taking his time. I think the only move is to take the pawn on h5. Sorry, the knight on h5. There's not really... He's probably calculating, and understandably so. Just like takes, queen h5, and like which queen move to move, or like rook e2. And Jin likes rook e2, but I like queen. I think queen makes more sense. Because then you can always shield. And I think it's a more effective shield, but that's just me. So we'll see. But yeah, takes, queen h4, and the move is... Wait, what's wrong? Oh, queen e2 just hangs a piece. So don't listen to me. Queen d2. So it kind of does put him in a pretty thin line. You have to find either queen d2, rook e2, or f4. Which f4 gives up a pawn. He might be willing to do it if it means just trading off that bishop. You're only up 1 point of material, but now you've kind of simplified it further. That could be a possibility. We see pawn takes and queen h4 on the board, and now is sort of the moment of truth, to where we will see how does Tanish handle this sort of threat on h2. Queen takes h2 is a serious threat. If you do nothing, like if you go a4, then queen takes h2, and black is just back in the game. They'll have like a move like bishop b7, and it's going to be hard to sort of like recover as white. So I would say it's pretty universally agreed upon that you should protect against the threat. You should protect h2. So we'll see what happens. By the way, little time check. Scott has 36 minutes left. Tanish has 27. So while Tanish is better, he has been using his time, which is not uncommon. It's not uncommon that the side who's winning just takes a little bit more time. They're trying to increase their advantage, double check, triple check, things like that. I'm sure after knight h5, Tanish did a lot of double, triple checking, things like that to make sure g4 was good. And we'll see what line he calculated. He played queen d2. Okay, I had a mini heart attack for a second because I knew one of these was bad. As for a split second, I thought he played the wrong one, which just hangs a piece, but that didn't happen. He goes queen d2. I like queen d2. Scott very quickly goes bishop e7. Yes, queen d2 is what's on the board. Makes a ton of sense, I think, because you're protecting the h7 pawn. sorry, the h2 pawn, but also your queen could be a shield. Like, if there's ever, like, a hypothetical check on g4, which I know is not really possible here, but there's a hypothetical check on the g file you could block with the queen pretty easily. So, we'll see what happens. Bishop b7, you know, I think his idea, he's going to try to take on d4. I'm actually going to turn, you know, lines off. Not like the eval, but I'm going to turn lines off. I think he's trying to take on d4 and then take on f3. Just try to get sort of that attack going. But I think after bishop takes, you can go queen takes. And like, you know, your attack's kind of running out. See, here's the problem for Scott. This is probably good, instructive anyway. Now, I don't know what his mindset was, like, if he was baiting g4 or if he just missed it. If he missed g4, that's a whole sort of separate thing. Like, your knight's on the edge, they just played e5, which protects the f6 square. I will say I initially didn't see f4 as trapping the knight. I just saw it as a good move, but, you know, g4 is a move you can calculate. If he was trying to bait TANISH and to calculate the line with g4, takes, boom, and here, the problem is you're only using 2 attackers against the king, and oftentimes 2 attackers is just not enough, especially if you're sacrificing material. You have to sort of justify it, and very easily you can just put, like, I guess technically you only have like 1 defender, which is going to be your queen. And your king. I guess your king counts as a defender against your own king, right? So, but you have, like, 1 defender. So if Scott had, like, a knight, you know, I don't know, on, like, h3 hypothetically, maybe it could work. But TANISH is like that. He's very solid. You know, if you sacrifice something against him, he's just gonna be, like, very solid and just, like, you know, beat me. Like what's the big deal here, right? So, bishop e7 is on the board. That's the last move that I see. TANISH probably taking a little bit more time. You need 3 or 4 to make it work. Yeah, definitely. Of course, there are exceptions when you can just have like a 2-piece attack and it just happens to work. But normally you need like 3 to 4 pieces in tandem to work, especially if you're sacrificing material to achieve it. Like your Greek gift sacrifice, I guess that's 2. But oftentimes it can be 3 because you use like the pawn on h4 and things like that. So TANISH plays queen f2. I think, you know, this is exactly sort of the idea that he has behind going queen d2, which is that he's going to try to trade the queens. If a trade queen, I almost said, if a queen trade happens, that clearly favors TANISH because he's already up material and in theory he's being attacked. I know it doesn't really feel like an attack. It's not really an attack, but in theory, he's the attacked side. The best moves apparently wasn't best. Better was apparently knight e4. But again, that's sort of like, you know, nuanced engine lines. It also says knight a4 is a move, which seems very counterintuitive to just move a piece away from the king side. But computer's so cold, man. Queen f2. Scott just took the pawn on h5. And we'll see sort of what happens from this position. I mean, he still has the bishops. That's not nothing. But I think that's really just it. And this bishop is not really contributing. I mean, you can trade and then take, I guess. I guess that's an idea. Even then, like, let's just say that white just plays like a4 or something, which apparently is a bad move. Is it bad for those reasons though? Take. No. Now I wonder what the threat is, because a4 is just. Wait, am I bad at chess? Is there something obvious? It's not takes. Is there like a bishop? No. I was thinking like bishop. No, that doesn't even work. What's the move here? It's killing me. Like, oh, like bishop c7 and you're just like, you know, worse? Okay. Bishop c7, like what's the actual idea? I guess it's just saying that black is better. Huh, okay. Well, anyway. What I was trying to demonstrate earlier is that I was trying to see if this sort of works. Sort of bishop takes d4 and here, which I don't believe it does. Because, well, you're not even threatening queen g4 because you can just move your king and there's no mate. But even if you thought that was an idea, you could go like queen g3. And like, again, like, you know, the king in theory is open, but there's really nothing to sort of show for it, right? Now, I guess if TANISH happens to play a4, suddenly Scott's better for who knows what reason. I think there's also, looks like there's a concrete like g5 idea, maybe to go g4 and crack open this bishop. So, the moves to maintain an advantage include rook a d1, f4, or rook f1. I guess which protects the f-pawn. He played rook f1. Very interesting. I guess that is an understandable move because, you know, this f-pawn is responsible for the blunting of this bishop, and you just want to put more support on it, which is very understandable. Seems like a pretty good move to me, actually. Top move for black is pawn g5. It's trying to go g4 and crack open the position. So we'll sort of see what happens. I'd be a little surprised, but also not surprised if he played g5. I feel like if he plays g5, we're about to have a wild game. Like, actually. It's going to be hard. If you get g4 and he takes, and like queen takes, I'm just going to play some nothing moves. G5, a4, g4, takes. This is winning for black because the bishops are open. You have to play queen g3. But kind of my point is there's no like queen block anymore because this bishop's open and so is this, right? So you sort of have that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. G5 would be an insane move, but I kind of doubt it happens, but we'll see. Hope you all are doing well. Alright, bishop c7 on the board. I was trying to give it a judgment before I use the eval, but probably can't get much worse for white. I guess he's just trying to preserve the bishop, prevent it from getting like kicked or attacked or something. Maybe like, I don't know, just like reconsider some things. You just kind of keep the bishops afar. They have just about the same effect from afar as they would closer to the board. The only difference here would be, is there anything here, which I guess rook f1 kind of, refutes any ideas of taking f4. Sorry, f3. So bishop c7 is on the board, and Scott's going to just try to play the game. I think he realizes that there's no checkmate. There's no immediate checkmate happening. So he's just going to try to play chess from here. He's going to say, look, I'm down a piece. I only have 2 bishops. You have 2 knights and a bishop, but your king's weak. You have to worry about that. I'm going to maybe play moves like g5, g4, maybe move the queen, h5, h4. Just try to like slow play an attack. And if he doesn't have anything concrete, then, or if he just like sits around, then he might be in trouble. TANISH, that is. Whereas TANISH should probably be aiming for something similar. I would definitely be trying to simplify. And actually sort of knowing what I know now about the position and the plans, it actually seems a little bit hard to play as white. My top move would be like knight e2, either knight to e2, followed by bishop f4. That would be a sort of top candidate because I'm thinking about this bishop and its scope. And if I can sort of like trade it off or at least block it, that would be a good outcome for me. So I like knight e2. I'm not exactly sure if it's like the best move or anything like that, but I think it's decent. Yeah, the problem is you can't really use your queen that much anymore because of the bishops. So there's sort of that. Maybe you could just chill, play rook d1. That's also a possibility. Okay, TANISH plays knight d to e2, as I sort of predicted, and it's one of the top moves. I see the eval bar is not moving. So he plays knight e2, likely with the idea of bishop f4, but maybe also like knight f4 is the idea. You're just blocking the bishop while attacking the queen. That is very possible. Maybe this is where Scott just goes g5 and prevents a piece from going to f4. It would be very reasonable for that reason. G5 just sort of like blunting the knight out. If I'm white, I'm trying to think about if I can get away with playing like queen g2. It's very scary because you kind of walk into the bishop, but, you know, it's a possibility. The idea, of course, being that you're attacking the pawn. Whoa! We have a banger. Black just, you know, says, I'm all in. I'm not going to do the slow play chess like Daniel suggested, just dropping the bishops back and like going for an attack. I'm going to go boom! Just sack the bishop straight up. Now, I'm trying to think concretely. You either just take... No, you don't take. There's mate. I think the move... And I should have seen this, by the way. Like, it is pretty basic, but I think it's like knight g3. Knight g3 or maybe knight f4. But I think it's more likely knight g3. Because you have takes... Of course, the queen and the bishop sort of combine for this battery on the sort of, b8 to h2 diagonal, and you get a checkmate. And so, yeah, I think without seeing the engine, like, you know, without seeing the move specifically, like the top engine move, I think the move is knight g3. And then you kind of force them to part ways with their bishop. You can recapture with the queen. Recapturing with the pawn would allow a mate on the h1 square. So you recapture with the queen. The bishop sort of has to move now. And then you just kind of like... It's kind of like, you know... I don't know. Like, it just looks pretty good. Knight g3. There we go. We nailed it. Top engine move. I assume. I mean, I haven't really, like, checked. Only move. Knight g3. Knight f4 doesn't work because there's queen g4 check. And I imagine it's just a mess. Like, queen g3, I imagine you can just, like, take. I don't know, but we'll see if TANISH finds the move knight to g3. The only move for him to maintain the advantage and not be worse. And yeah, just kind of looking at those lines, knight g3. So now the bishop's attacked. So, you know, and the queen's attacked. So, I think the only move would be bishop takes g3. And then obviously, you know, queen takes, h takes would get mated. But queen takes, now the bishop's attacked, you'd have to go like back. And like, yeah, this looked good for white. Suddenly you might be starting to think about your own attack. Like, bishop d4, queen e5, can I get in on those dark squares? And he finds it. He found the move knight to g3. Scott pretty immediately just takes the knight on g3. Now TANISH is having a little think. I hope he's not considering h takes. He does play queen takes, not blundering mate in 1. And we're going to go into this exact line. Now, will he play bishop e7? Will he play maybe like, you know, I don't know what else he'd play. You know, I mean, bishop c6 probably makes a little more sense to protect the pawn. It's not like you're going to trade queens or anything like that. That would also blunder a piece. So, I expect bishop c6 is the move, but we'll see. Bishop c6 is on the board. All right. Bishop c6 on the board. TANISH is down to 17 minutes versus Scott's 32. So nearly half the time, but with a way better position. And even though it's technically now equal material, because he was able to snap the pawn on f3, it's better for white, Well, they have like less attacking resources now. They traded off, their bishop, their dark square bishop, which was kind of, theoretically helping. And yeah, I mean, black has his own weaknesses. You can sort of like, just like maybe double up on the F file, get an attack on the dark squares, things like that. I would say knight e4, knight f6, but obviously the bishop stops that. So maybe you can like prep that with like queen f4, knight e4. That's a strong possibility too, in my opinion. So we'll see what he does. Hopefully TANISH, I'm saying for his sake, not that I have a rooting interest, but hopefully he doesn't go into the tank because he only has 16 minutes. And Scott tends to move fast. So if he gets in time pressure, it could get a little bit messy. I think his position's good enough to where he can just kind of be solid. Even like, I see like, well, actually, this would be a quicker way to do it. Just rook f4, rook h4. In fact, I actually wonder if there is a concrete move. Oh, the concrete move that's better, well, it's not really concrete, I guess, is rook f6. Rook f6 is the top engine move, and the idea is just to double. The idea is just to double, and you have all your pieces coordinated. Just about all of them. But I would also be attracted. Rook f4 is the second move. I'd be attracted to that. Because not only do you have this idea, but you have like an idea of like knight e4. We'll see what happens. All right. Yeah, just chilling, waiting for the next move. TANISH is down to 14.5 minutes. Not ideal if you are Team TANISH. So we'll see sort of what's going on from there. But yeah, I mean, I think we went over some candidate moves. Rook f6, rook f4. You can just go rook d1, I guess, if you want to just chill. Those would probably be the best moves I consider. The one potential scare is that this is an unopposed light square bishop. So you don't have a bishop that can just trade itself, right? Trade itself for that bishop. So, you'd have to go like... if you like wander off, there could be some like mate threats. Like, I don't know, if you go queen d6, then, there's like maybe a queen h3 and, it's a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, here there's like queen g3, I think. But say like queen d6, I don't know, they go like, here and like you wander. There are situations where if you just wander with your queen, you just get mated. I guess not this way because there's like a... What is there? Is there like... I don't know. But what's the losing move? Is it just queen g4 check? Yep, queen g4, and then check. Not check. Oh, you go this way, don't you? Check? Yeah, and then you just pick up the bishop. Okay. Yeah. So see, there are situations where that could be a problem. Wow, TANISH finds the top move. After bishop c6, we looked at the engine earlier. He plays rook to f6. Honestly, bravo to the kid. He plays rook f6. I would be more inclined to go rook f4 for the flexibility. Why is rook f6 the better move? I guess you physically stop like f5 ideas, which makes sense. Why you would want to stop it. And obviously he's just going to double and chill. So we'll see what happens. That's a great move, double the rooks. Yes. No, rook f6 is a very good move. I think TANISH is in control of the game. Time pressure permitting. Black goes rook b8 here. I imagine, without a doubt. I mean, I guess you're attacking the pawn, so maybe you don't necessarily want to double immediately, but it should be fine. I would think. Yeah, I mean, computer eval isn't really phased, so rook A to B8 is on the board. Rook A to F1. Sorry, rook A to F1's not on the board. That was just sort of my variation. He might, although it's kind of hard to protect the pawn, so he might just be inclined to go here, take, and if take, you just have, like, I feel like you have a lot of stuff here. There's an idea of, like, say, rook F4, maybe the other rook, and then going rook H4. That's the idea sort of I like. Okay, he plays rook B1, which I could criticize as passive, although it's kind of hard because also I don't know why there's like a result here. Like somehow the game is just 0-1. Like it already says black 1, so maybe it's foreshadowing, but let's see. If I go here, no result. There we go. So yeah, I do understand. See, it still says that black won. I need to fix that. Okay, yeah, no result. Maybe I maybe if I delete the move and play this. Okay, there, that should be better. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe it might have been hard to just kind of see something concrete after this. But there's like maybe knight e2, knight f4. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. Black plays rook b7. Sorry, not here. Here, black plays rook b7. Perhaps, I assume the idea is just to double on the b file. He's worried about the amount of pawns on the board. Yeah, that's probably true. Like, if it goes into an endgame, you could be worried about, like, I only have, like, 2 pawns left, or maybe something happens to this pawn, or, you only have, like, 2 pawns left on the board, and you can't really make a queen, but I think in these positions, it's really about, like, piece quality, and just trying to, like, like, white, theoretically, is probably just, like, kind of playing for checkmate. So I guess I say that. I'm not exactly sure in what way. But again, I like this plan. Just rook f1, rook f4, and rook h4. Just kind of going for the throat. Like, let's calculate some variations. I say calculate. I'm just going to play the moves. Here, I go rook f4. See, I knew it would be dangerous. I think it's dangerous because of check. No, well, I was trying to, provoke knight takes and queen, but, why is it dangerous? Is there, like, just some rook c2? And then if here, is there rook g2? Yeah. There's rook g2. And then you take the rook. Okay, yeah, so it's like, essentially you take the pawn, and for rook h4 you have this rook g2 move in between. And the rook's protected by the bishop. So, okay, wow, very interesting move I see. So after rook b7, TANISH plays b4, which I guess in itself is not, like, that bad. You go b4. If en passant, I think he'll just take with the pawn and chill. So I think what he's trying to do is sort of assure that the pawn on b4, that the b pawn won't be attacked because you have the pawn on a3 sort of protecting it. You have this sort of going on. So I think that's sort of what is. Maybe the bishop can join in and force the rook to f8. Oh, yeah, that's also probably another idea. Go bishop c5, force the rook out of f8. and then you can double. I actually quite like that. That might be the other idea. I think Black's problem, besides, just like, he's technically not down material, but like the dark squares are so weak. You have f6, like, there might even be like a queen d6, bishop c5 idea. Scott captures en passant. As they all say, if you have en passant, you should just do it. Tanish just takes back with the pawn. And, yeah. We'll see what happens from here. So now it's going to take a little longer to accomplish bishop c5 because the queen is protecting it. So, b4 could still be an idea. I think Scott's sort of like hanging on a little bit. Like, the advantage is there, but it's not necessarily that clear. Which, again, I'd be really attracted to this, like, rook f1, rook f4 idea. But maybe it just doesn't work. Like, let's say here, I go rook f1, they take. Maybe I try this rook, which doesn't work because I guess the knight just hangs. So you probably would just have to move the knight. Or just take the pawn. That's also probably fine. Yeah, take the pawn. If the knight's taken, well, if the knight's taken, then the rook hangs. So, oh wow, we have some developments. So, after takes, Black played the move king g7, which sort of walks into bishop d4. So, Tanish is probably thinking that he gets what he wants, right? Because now there's like a discovered attack threat, and the best move for Black is probably just move out of it. Just go king back to g8. Sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, so Black just goes back to g8, and, I guess it's kind of a good opportunity for him to, I don't know, guess he was trying to, he kind of force the bishop to d4, and for whatever reason, that's good. White played b4. So now, once again, sorry, my nose, I think I'm catching something. So, yeah, the idea behind b4 is that, bishop c5 exists, and you can just double. So I think Tanish is doing a really good job of just sort of coming up with an attacking scheme in a position where it's kind of difficult to just, you don't really have a knockout blow necessarily. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Tanish is down to 10 minutes. Scott has 26. So, Scott, in theory, has plenty of time. Will he use it? Will be another sort of question. Of course, he always has this bishop that's going to be sort of looming on the diagonal, as will the queen. I'd say the rooks aren't really very active, so that's sort of a negative. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so b4 is the main variation. We'll just promote that. All right. Scott has 25 minutes left. awkward silence, but there's not really a whole lot to comment more about. I mean, you know, just like, I think white's doing really well, but black is also sort of hanging on. They have this annoying they have the annoying bishop always, you know, queen. So, like, if the knight ever moves, there's like a queen d5 idea, attacking the bishop and also threatening this. Is currently black's move. So what should black do? I mean, I'm not exactly sure. It's hard to say. I would guess that he's going to try to see if a5 works. Because if takes, there's an idea of takes. And then you can even recapture, but then even like queen d5 might be good. I know I see the move played. I'll get to it in a second, but a5, probably like b5 is okay. Because if takes, that actually is losing because of rook takes, knight takes. I was guessing there. I didn't even read the engine. And queen d4. Okay, not the absolute best, but this is much simpler. You're attacking the bishop and the knight and the king. So it all kind of works out. So after a5, yeah, I think b5 just kind of allows take. So a5, black played the move. Sorry, after b4, black played the move rook to e8. And TANISH doubles on the F file, and Scott plays d5. So his idea now is that he is laterally protecting the pawn, which seems fine. Computer's giving a larger advantage than it did earlier, significantly larger. I wonder if there's just like a concrete like queen d6. Because queen d6 attacks the bishop, and there's not like a whole lot you can do about it. Because bishop d7, you just take the pawn, you're fine. You know, I guess bishop b5's a move, but then I can take, and then I'm sure I have like, you know, just something. LS Chess, what's going on? How's it going? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, we're tuning in for TANISH versus Scott Cooper. Right now, TANISH seems to be doing pretty well. I don't have engine lines on. He says bishop e5, or that's not what it says, but that's the move that was played. I was speculating that queen d6 here is probably pretty good. I just sort of check real quick. Okay, so like either rook to f4 is just crushing, which makes sense. Queen d6 is okay, but does allow a check, which probably didn't need to be done, and it takes the bishop. So bishop e5 on the board. I imagine the idea behind bishop e5, or part of it, was just to sort of like sidestep. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the idea behind bishop e5 was, but maybe, you know, maybe he just wants to go like rook f4. I don't know. I actually don't know, but, you know, it's chess. It is chess. What do you know? All right. So, yeah, I think once again, either rook to f4, you know, swinging it to h4 is really effective. Yeah, this bishop's loose. I'm not sure the knight can really do much. Knight's actually low-key restricted, so we'll see. Scott just plays rook to e7. Imagine just trying to put as much protection on the pawn as possible. Oof, Scott's bishop. What happened to it? Maybe it's in a different line. But rook to e7 is, you know, once again, really good for white. You know, I assume the same idea of like rook f4, rook h4 is sort of crushing. I think TANISH is trying to play this patiently, like not necessarily just going to f4 immediately. Not trying to go like rook f4 immediately, but just kind of waiting for the right time. Will we get this W commentary for the Austin Norm? I'm not sure. It probably just depends on what time the games are. I could probably do some rounds, but other rounds maybe not. Also, is it next weekend or the weekend after? That'll probably also be a consideration, but I'll look into it. I didn't really want to commit when it was initially brought up just because it was gonna be a while, but now it's getting closer, so we can sort of like look into these possibilities. Okay. Tanish is down to 7 minutes or below 7 minutes. It starts next Wednesday. Okay, so like it's like probably Wednesday through like Sunday or Monday, right? Something like that. Next Wednesday is interesting, but we'll see. Yeah, I'll try to take a look at the schedule and see when I can do. So yeah, I'm just gonna open the engine lines now. Knight D1 is the top move. That's actually crazy, but there's a reroute idea, I assume, with like saying like knight f2, knight g4, and then, you know, there's like probably just like move the rook and knight f6, say. So knight e2, also rook d1's a top move. It's actually not clear like what the best move is. The top engine moves are knight d1, rook d1, excuse me, rook e1, rook c1, or bishop d4. Wait, why does it want you to just move the rook away from f1? Maybe there's like, you know, I see the line with rook d1 is like rook d4. So why can't I play rook f4? Oh, the bishop's hanging. Okay, so yeah, we don't want. I guess that makes a little bit more sense. If you play like rook e1, you could go like rook f4 then, but it'll be interesting to sort of see how Tanish handles it, because this is not necessarily an easy position. Wow, he finds the top move, knight d1. So you're just moving the knight away, and you're going to potentially reroute it. So yeah, unprotected bishop, that's true. Scott immediately goes bishop e5, and Tanish goes rook e1. Okay. So rook e1's on the board. We'll see sort of what happens. You know, I guess the question is, will the knight go to like e3 or f2? I feel like e3 intuitively makes more sense because you're just trying to like go a little bit more forward, but also you can accomplish the same thing from f2. And maybe, you know, you go g4, maybe there's like, you know, h3 to g5, but I'm not exactly sure about that. So we'll see sort of what happens. You know, Scott has 21 minutes or 22 minutes. Tanish has 5. 5 minutes and 22 seconds. So looks like this will be an exciting ending. You have Tanish, the high rate player, with less time versus Scott, the low rate player, with more time. So we'll see how the time scramble is handled. We will see how it is handled. All right. Let's use the bathroom real quick. I will be right back. There we go. I think a couple moves were played since I left. Rook to e8 is on the board. Knight f2, so his sort of point behind going knight d1 to try to go to e2 and reroute. And Scott plays the move h6. I guess I don't necessarily know maybe he's trying to go queen g5 and just trade queens, but it could open up some possibilities. Tanish pretty quickly goes knight g4, which is the top move, and yeah, you're just straight up threatening to like move the rook and then go knight f6. So I think that might have been Tanish's idea all along with like knight d1 to try to go or eventually access the g4 square and ultimately go to f6, because even if you don't necessarily get the fork, it's still a really good post from f6 and you have like a lot of attacking potential. Like, for example, let's just say like, queen moves, you go like here or something random, check. If king f8, there's like bishop d6. And then, well, I guess there's king g7 actually, but also you just get the rook. So I'm just thinking like along the lines of like, maybe the rook just moves instead. You go check. I guess there is king g7, so I sort of missed that, but you see, it gets pretty devastating. I would just probably just like, well, can I even just like trade and just go like here or something like that? Just try to like attack that way. That's probably what I would do or consider doing. But also, I think a move like queen. Well, you can't go queen to c3. Maybe like knight back to g4. I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, knight g4. This is the position on the board. Knight h7, knight h7, and that variation. Oh, knight h7 is interesting. Right. Oh yeah, I think knight h7 is just a fork, right? Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, knight h7. You have like the queen king fork. Yep, there's that too. So knight g4 is on the board. We'll see what happens. All right. Yeah, looks like Tanish is doing really well. Rook c8 is on the board. And yeah, I assume without seeing the engine that white is just going to move the rook somewhere and then prepare to play knight f6. You could also probably just take e6. I'm thinking, but I think rook f2 is what he played. So rook f2 on the board. The threat is knight to f6. And yeah, I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot that black can do. I guess we have this variation with queen g5, but there's knight f6. And as Bruce pointed out, if king f8, there is knight h7. So there's not really much you can do. I guess king g7 you could trick. Well, no, that wouldn't even. Yeah, knight e4. And like, even if they take the bishop, you just take back. So yeah, I think there's just not a lot that Scott can do. Rook c8, rook f2. We'll see what happens. But, even though Tanish is a little bit lower on time, it's looking pretty promising. All right. Queen g5 is on the board. So I imagine we should just get the same line with knight f6. Knight f6 should just by force win the queen, right? Knight f6, king f8 runs to a fork, and any other king move would walk into the diagonal. Wow, he doesn't even play knight f6. He goes h4. Okay. That's probably fine, too. I mean, oh, is h4 just trap the queen? Yeah, I mean, you can go to h5, but then you get forked. Yeah, I think TANISH just decided, oh, I guess there's queen d8. So it doesn't trap the queen. It's still really good, but he could have won a queen, you know, a little earlier, just with check. King f8, there's knight h7. King g7 or king h8, there is, what you call it, knight e5. So, but h4 is undoubtedly also a good move. Kind of forcing the queen either probably to e7 or d8, I would imagine. e7, d8, and then you can sort of take h6, maybe go like knight f4 or something, and then just continue the attack. Funny how it sort of started out as a, an attacking sort of attempt from black, and now the table's sort of turned. It's an attacking, masterpiece from white. So we'll see how it goes. Queen to e7 is on the board. Yeah, it looks like knight h6 should be played in e2, or knight f6, I guess. He could still probably go knight f6, and, you can't go... I mean, you can. You might have to go to f8, but then there's probably just, like, I don't know, actually. Oh, king f8, there's bishop d6. Duh. Maybe that's what he's trying to do. Okay, Scott's clock is still running. He might have forgot to hit his clock. Or maybe there was a resignation, but queen d8 is on the board, not queen e7. It was queen to d8, and yeah, I think knight f6 is pretty good. Oh yeah, but now there's no more bishop d6 and winning the queen, but I assume after knight e7, bishop d6. I guess the king can go to g7. Hard to say. Okay, knight takes h6 is on the board. And, I think it's just a matter of when we'll see resignation, not if. I assume knight takes f7 is fine. Bishop f6 could also just be cunning, but knight takes, queen could kind of creep in. Yeah, knight takes. I think this is just a wrap. I think it's just GG. Wow. What a game. What a game. Well, I mean, it's not over yet, but we'll see. Like, literally, you have the bishop, the knight, the queen, the rook surrounding you. Like, this is just not ideal. Definitely catching something. A little cold or something like that. We'll see. I'm also just tired. Also, rook f6 is an idea. You have like a lot of ideas. Obviously you're threatening the queen. Rook f6. After rook f6, you play queen g5 even. Just kind of creep in. Queen f4 and creep in. Like h5 is an idea. Wow. Because like if they take, you just go queen g7. How do you like not get mated as black? I'll start doing engine lines. Okay, like bishop e2 is the top move to just like, See, it's so funny. The engine lines weren't even in order. It had like a plus 12 line over a plus 10 line. Queen b6, decent try, just like pinning the rook. But it initially said force mate, but it's probably realizing it's not necessarily forced, but the best move is queen f4. to try to checkmate the king. But also h5 is a good move. Queen f4, h5, either way works. Neither of those happen. He goes knight d6, which is alright. I'd rather leave the knight there, just go for mate, rather than just win material. But knight d6 is okay, probably just trying to like cash in some material. Just kind of ensure that, you know, he's truly in the driver's seat and that he can win more comfortably. So, totally fine, no major criticisms there. Rook c7. And I expect him to just take. Yup, rook takes. Rook takes. And still queen g5. Also rook f7. Time, Tanish has 3.5 minutes. Scott has 11.5. But I expect Tanish to take this home, I would assume. Also, rook f7 is illegal, so don't do that. Actually, that's a little inconvenient that this is just illegal. So maybe I'm trying to like put my king on g2 first and then go rook f7. Just try to like sauce him. King h2 is on the board. Same idea. Just go rook f7. Okay, queen b7. Saying rook g1. I'd love to go rook f1, but there's a bishop. Although it may not be that bad if you just give up the exchange, but you're still dominating. That could be funny. But probably unnecessary. I think, like, apparently h5 is forced mate. And if takes, I'm sure there's, like, you know, just, like, something. Rook f6, I don't know. Rook g1 on the board, you're threatening this. Yeah, this is just a wrap. This should be a wrap. And, you know, the part of the problem is that, you know, now you have an opposite color bishop. Well, I guess you have an extra rook, so that really helps. But the bishop's doing a wonderful job just, like, controlling the squares. I mean, you have, like, literally the dream attack. Rook g8, I imagine h5 is good. I mean, apparently they just lock it up with g5 and it goes on, but, you know, computer says rook f8, which is understandable. Yeah, or rook f6. I think it's just a matter of kind of appetite at this point. A lot of moves, rook f6, rook f8, queen g5, you know, even like rook c1 to try and just go here is totally fine too. Queen g5 is the choice. Yeah, queen g5 and yeah, I mean like rook f6 and it's just like, yeah, it's just GG. Nice. Nice potential win, assuming he closes it out. Sorry, just reading something. I'm starting to catch something. Hopefully it's not, you know, some big deal. Rook c1, bishop c4. Yeah, moves are flying in. Tanish has, yeah, he has 2 minutes left, so hopefully he doesn't. I mean, he's been doing a lot of, like, preparing, like, maneuvering pieces, but at some point you just gotta go bang. Or, I mean, I guess you could trade pieces and just win that way, but h5 is forced mate in 7, so we're at the forced mate mark. Multiple moves are just forced mate, including rook takes, d takes, and then just h5 is also forced mate. Yeah, if takes, there would just be queen takes. Yep, h5 is on the board. Imagine like rook f8's like the core idea, right? If like nothing happens, rook f8, and there'd be mate. So he goes here. Yeah, moves are flying in. Just 1 second. Rook g2. Yeah, this is just a straight up threat. Queen f7. Rook c to g1 is fine, but takes is also good. He might just be trying to like just trade all the pieces and win. Just up a rook. I don't blame him, because then he can just make quick moves. He'll have like the... Well, he won't have the f1 square, but he could even like... I don't know. But... Rook takes... Oh, queen takes is a blunder. Well, not a blunder. It's just the wrong way, because you can just win the queen now. Yep, check. And then if queen h5... Sorry, if queen h6, you take and then you win the rook. There we go. We're seeing the finishing touches of this game. And now TANISH is up 2 rooks rather than 1. And should just go on to win. If we don't see a resignation already. Okay, he's going to go king h5. Just try to play on. There's a mate in 3 with rook c to g1. And, you know, I imagine rook g7, rook h8. So, he goes king g3. Ah, you're trying to get the rook in. What you should have done rook h1 first. So you can play king g3 mate. Missed opportunity there. You know, just play king g1 mate. That would have been, like, fun. But, yeah, king g3. And there's a resignation. All right, what a game. What a game. Definitely very instructive. Very interesting sort of Sicilian position. You know, I think, you know, just kind of started with Scott getting his knight trapped on h5 and kind of going for the attack as a result. And there were positions where it got tricky. Like, you never knew with the 2 bishops, but ultimately, you know, I think the critical moment was here where Scott tries to sack the bishop, which is a good looking idea because of h2. Yeah, pretty good game, but TANISH finds this key move, knight g3. So he finds knight g3, the only move to maintain the advantage, and he wins. All right, I'm going to send them the PGN just in case they want it. All right. So, yeah. Actually, I should just save it, yeah. Not that it really matters, but now I can refresh. I don't know when they're starting round 2. Maybe they'll take a second. I'll probably just take a second. I'm going to use the bathroom. Maybe get another sort of drink. And then be back. All right. I will be right back. All right. Um, Welcome back to the show. Um, we are just waiting for game 2 to start. Let me read this actually real quick before we get started. They're about to start game 2. All right, bet. Oh yeah, I do need to flip them. It's gonna be different this time because now it's gonna be. I was making a move. It's not the official move. Scott Cooper will be white. He is rated 1551. 1819. All right. We will be ready whenever they are for round 2. All right. Sorry, I actually don't have chat open. I just reading something else on my phone. We got the phone with chat, and also got the good old iPad with the moves. So that is what we are working with. Hope y'all are doing good. Hope y'all are having a great evening watching chess. I'm doing pretty well, but apparently as we record, I'm catching something. I think it's just a cold. I don't think it's anything major, but apparently people have been getting sick. So, just all the best to those people, I guess. Yep. Oh, they already started. Oh, it didn't refresh. Okay, that's fine. So, we'll get these moves. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop E5, A6, bishop A4, knight F6, castles, D6, D3, bishop D7, C3, G6, bishop G5, bishop G7. Get you something better to eat. Yeah, for sure. Now I'm going to have real food after this. I just need to decide what. Also, I'm probably just going to go to bed. I'm actually sort of running on very little sleep because I just got back from a trip. I got back from a trip at 4 a.m. and had to wake up at 8 a.m. to go to work. So, but yeah, no. So I'm just going to probably just get some food, go to bed real early tonight, and then just rest. Queen C1 played not the normal way you would just do this. Yeah, I don't think, like, so Tanish, whoops, he doesn't play king f8, he just castles. I don't think he's really afraid of bishop h6 in this particular position, because I think you don't really have just, like, much sort of leeway for an attack. He goes bishop h6. Apparently, this is before I turned off engine lines, but knight h5 seems really good. I think the idea is that, you know, if the bishop gets traded, you have the f4 square for the knight. So bishop h6 is on the board. Yeah, and I can commentate on the other moves, but, you know, I kind of, like, miss them. But, you know, rather than going, like, bishop e7 and maybe keeping a marshal open, Tanish likes to go d6. Or I say he likes to. I'm pretty sure he does. That's kind of his, like, bread and butter against the Rui. But yeah, he likes to go sort of like d6 and just play that solid structure rather than, like, you know, maybe keeping it there and waiting for d5. And so then he likes to go g6. Which, yeah, I'm saying he likes to, assuming that, like, he doesn't in all his games. I'm not exactly sure. So, bishop h6, this is the move on the board. We will see what happens. Bishop takes would probably be a little bit counterintuitive because of queen takes. You just fly the queen in, plug in the holes on the dark squares, and you have sort of like something to play for. Black just plays rook to e8 here, and Scott quickly takes, king takes. The problem is, I'm not sure what the queen's doing on c1. You know, I guess he can just fly in and just try to, like, you know, just orchestrate an attack there. But I'm not exactly sure about white's position. I guess it's fine. Like, you know, you can go like knight d2, like just go traditional, bishop c2, knight d2, d4. What happened in game one? Yeah, game one, Tanish won, which actually I could probably just update the score. Tanish won that game. It was pretty interesting. I would say for the most part, it was Tanish who dominated, but it actually got pretty interesting because Scott just trapped his knight, but he trapped it on h5, so as a result, he got his pawns, you know, he was sort of able to, like, get his queen and bishop in. So there was a little bit of intrigue, but then Scott tried to sack his bishop, but Tanish found the only move to sort of, like, keep the advantage and not be worse. Eventually, it just kind of, like, petered down, and Tanish was actually the one attacking and better. So, yeah, Tanish won, Scott 0. We'll see what happens in game 2. Bishop c2 on the board. Yeah, I like bishop c2. You just kind of, like, move out of, you know, just any potential danger with, like, you know, just, like, b5 or, like, this being opened up somehow. So you just go bishop c2. There's an idea, of course, to go d4. And bishop c2 also had the idea to protect the e4 pawn. So, you know, so there's that. And yeah, I think if I'm white, you know, this is like a pretty traditional Ruy Lopez. It's just a little different since the queen's on c1. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but yeah, just go like knight d2, rook e8, knight f1, knight e3. Although maybe there you don't quite have the f5 square because the pawn's there. Tanish goes knight h5. Indicating one of two things, if not both. Knight f4 or like f5 and or f5. I assume the idea is to go knight f4 just to like kind of sink the knight in, you know, against the king side. Also, there's a fork threat, of course, but I assume that, you know, Scott would see it. But also maybe there's an idea of f5, just trying to sort of like mount an attack. Let's just say that black just goes, sorry, white goes a4. You know, f5. Have you continued to do nothing? There's like f4 and then g5, g4 coming. Seems pretty good, right? So, Scott just plays rook to e1 in this position. And after rook to e1, I would imagine that black just plays knight to f4. I think that's a pretty logical sort of move to play. My daughter is watching. Hey, what's up, Liv? Liv, how's it going? I'm glad to hear that you are watching. And also, your dad is super awesome. So shout out to him, shout out to you. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you pursue chess one day. I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but I know you're probably pretty young, so chess is a great game. Yeah, for sure. Queen to f6 is played, so wow, the moves are flying in quickly. Queen g5, so pretty interesting sort of like way of playing from both sides. So TANISH, maybe rather than like trying to solidify the knight on f4, is maybe just thinking like, I'm going to go queen f6 first, I'm going to attack, just kind of put more pressure on the f4 square rather than, just commit to it. And then white just goes queen g5. And so, it seems like, these positions are slightly better for black. I mean, obviously, it's just like, obviously the eval says that, but I think the idea is that there's the f4 square. So queen trade happens, and then I imagine this is where the knight just sinks into f4. Maybe it goes h6 first. Almost 3. Okay, cool. She's almost 3. Nice. Happy birthday in advance. I assume almost means that the birthday is coming up. Maybe within a month or so. Maybe within a day, for all I know. But yeah, h6, knight f3 is on the board. Yeah, one sort of theme I noticed from this match is that, seems like TANISH is really taking his time and Scott's moving a little bit quick, which is totally understandable. So that's been pretty interesting to sort of observe, because in the previous game it was it was kind of a matter of it was sort of a matter of Scott had like a lot more time but he was losing, whereas TANISH had a lot less time but was winning. So it was kind of interesting to see sort of how they sort of balanced that. In the end, TANISH won. He's really good in time pressure, I've noticed. Like, he's not uncomfortable just going into time pressure and then just playing fast moves. So he was able to demonstrate that. So here, yeah, f5 is played, and then Scott immediately goes knight d2, which isn't a bad move per se, but a lot of, more veteran players would want to, like, just kind of sit there for a little bit, especially after a move like f5 is played. Because if I'm looking at this move f5, I'm thinking, like, do I take? Do I leave it there? If I leave it there, do they have f4? I guess it matters less, because I'm thinking of things like this, just kind of like King's Indian defense, type of like positions. She's laughing and says that she loves him. What's his name? Thanks for shouting out Daniel. Well, that's sweet. That definitely made my day. I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. So no, definitely. I think what I was thinking about is that, like, with f4 and g5, things like that, maybe it matters a little bit less because the queens are off the board. So maybe, the idea is, like, you can allow an attack all you want, but I'll just, like, say move my rook and move my knight or something. Oh, now that I think about this a little bit more concretely, f4, you follow by g5, g4, the knight doesn't really have very many squares to go to. Maybe there's, like, knight to h4, but the knight's kind of stuck now. So we'll see what sort of happens. Yeah. We will see. TANISH is taking a little bit of time. I don't have the engine moves on necessarily. I mean, I can do that real quick, just if I'm curious. And knight f4 is the top move. It makes a lot of sense. Pawn f4. F takes is up there, but I think F takes is pretty counterintuitive. Just because, I don't know. I feel like you just want to, like, maintain... Wow, TANISH, speaking of counterintuitive, knight to f6 is the move that TANISH played. So, yeah, I wonder why he didn't put the knight on f4. Maybe, I'm sure there's a logical reason. Maybe he was afraid of, like, g3. That would be interesting. So knight f4, g3, knight h3, and I think that you can just take, right? And you're protected. Or go f4. I mean, f4 would actually be pretty interesting. You get f4 and the knight into h3 and the bishop protecting. So there's that. I don't know. maybe he just miscalculated. I'm not trying to, like, be critical or anything like that, but I just, you know, it just doesn't, you know, maybe he has, like, another idea to go, like, I don't even know what he'd do. I think he just underestimated knight f4, which makes sense. I mean, it's hard when you don't have the engine to, like, you know, tell you that knight f4 is just the best move, but Scott plays pretty quickly, rook a to c1, so, you know, Scott's development, just overall gameplay, is a little bit questionable. Like, I think queen c1, bishop h6 was kind of, you know, interesting. You're, like, trading off your dark square bishop, and now you just have, like, you know, dark square weaknesses. Rook c1, like, I'm not sure what that does. If anything, I would be more inclined to go rook d1, just try to centralize the rook. TANISH plays rook to d8, which is understandable. I mean, it just seems like, you know, seems like a pretty balanced position. I would still say, even though engine now says it's equal, I would slightly prefer black still. You have ideas of, like, going f4, g5, g4, and maybe he's going to push the pawns. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. Well, I don't know if you're talking about white or black, but, you know, I think both of them have, like, pawn push ideas that are pretty, you know, pretty interesting. So Scott plays bishop b3. So, you know, there's open space. Kind of understandable that the bishop would occupy it. Let's see what's going on. So maybe he's trying to stop, like, d5. Maybe that's, like, one. I wonder if black had, like, d5 earlier, but maybe not. I'm just trying to see without. Yeah, d5 takes, knight takes. I mean, you get your second chance to go to f4, I guess. I don't know. The moves are coming in so fast. It's kind of hard to just analyze every single one in detail. So I think we're just going to enjoy the position, you know, until one of them clearly goes in the tank. Like, it's TANISH's move here. Time check, 41 minutes as white. 41 minutes as white is a horrible way of wording it, but white has 41 minutes. Black has 36 minutes. So it's still relatively balanced, but we know who's been taking their time and who's been moving a little bit quicker, which is okay. We know that Scott likes to play just sort of rapidly, and TANISH likes to sort of take his time and be the perfectionist. So white pushes the center, black pushes the wing. Yes, exactly. So that's sort of what's going to go on here. Like, white is going to try to, like, get their center advantage. Black is going to try, as even though you don't have queens on the board, this could still be very effective. Like, in theory, you get your pawns there, you put your rooks on, like, h and g. I know there's a bishop there, but just, you know, just as an example. And also you can play, like, knight a5 if you want to get rid of this bishop. So, which, in fact, without looking at the engine, knight a5 might just be the move here, right? Because, you know, I think that the sort of eval slightly went down after bishop b3. I assume the move is a knight h5. Okay, it's up there. Not the best move, but, you know, it was a good move. I wonder what the best move is. Maybe just f4. Yeah, best move just f4, which is understandable. You go f4 and then, like, g5, g4. And once again, speaking of counterintuitive, TANISH just takes the pawn on e4. I mean, it's fine. It's not some bad move. But I am a little bit surprised that he took. You know, you kind of, like, lose the flexibility to go, like, f4, say. Knight takes is on the board. We'll see what his idea is, I guess. d5 won't work, I don't think, because of knight takes, and then the pawn hangs. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, because knight takes, you know, I think you'd play pawn takes. This is not quite in the game yet, but I'm just kind of showing this variation. So I think rook takes could just get complicated after, like, bishop f4. I'm not saying complicated, but it'd be like, do I want to put my rook on the e4 square? Whereas pawn takes is just more solid. You kind of have the d5 square now. f5 square is under control. You're doing okay. So, I would be a little surprised if he just snap took. But I am curious, sort of, it still shows... Oh, wow, he did take. Knight takes, rook takes on the board. Okay, very interesting. So, Scott wants to just keep the idea of d4 alive. Bishop f4 on the board. That's actually a little bit awkward, but he plays rook e3, defending the pawn. I imagine d4 is just the next move. Maybe. I mean, you have to consider if you rush it. Let's just say, like, a5 on the board. If you go d4 and they take, you will isolate your pawn, most likely. So maybe you want to prep it a little bit by playing, like, rook d1 and then go d4. That would be a possibility. You could also go, like, maybe bishop d5, try to chop it off and go d4. I'm not sure I would just trade my bishop, though, so maybe it's not the best sort of suggestion. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm a little surprised he played rook takes, kind of allowing bishop f5, but he goes back. Credit to Scott. He's playing this better than the first game. I mean, the first game he blundered or, baited. I don't know. This is where, like, post-game interviews would be cool because, like, you just sort of wonder, like, in the first game, like, did he see g4 coming or, in fact, let's do this. Let's text Jason. At this point, it's only people we know in the chat, so y'all know who Jason is. I'm going to say, me and the chat are curious, even though the chat wasn't necessarily asking, but I'll put y'all's name in it. And if you're not curious, you can sue me. We're curious in game 1. Did Scott mean to allow g4 or did he miss it? I'm actually curious, like, anecdotally, like, because, like, that's, like, 2 different outcomes or 2 different possibilities. So, yeah, that's not played yet, so, it's rook e3. Sorry, a5's not even on the board yet, so this is the position. Very balanced. Totally missed it. Interesting. Just for context, I know maybe Matt wasn't here when during the first game, but just for context, wait, how do I might need to just get the PGN. Jason says they're playing way too fast. Yeah, dude, I feel it. They're slowing down now, which is fine. But what I was referring to, I don't know if Matt's still here or not, but and this is a good time to maybe review anyway, but you have this moment with e5 where the knight could go to like d5 or e8 or to h5. h5 is the worst out of the 3 because of g4, and the knight is just trapped. The knight has nowhere to go. What I was kind of speculating is that maybe he allowed it because, this is what happened in the game. You get this sort of attack, but what, the host is telling me is that Scott just completely missed g4. So he missed a g4, traps the knight, and just sort of like played with the cards he was dealt. Okay, we have a move. Knight to e7. Yeah, this game is going to be very different than the first game. This is going to be like slow positional maneuvering, endgame, trying to get a slight advantage. Whereas the first game was just fireworks, essentially. Now, I think it was necessarily fireworks because Scott trapped his bishop. But, you know, that was a pretty exciting game. It got interesting, for sure. Scott, of course it's Scott. I'm just making the instant move. Plays rook to e1, doubling up on the e file and potentially preparing a d4 idea. Although I'm not sure how effective d4 would be, because let's say you just gotta move, you know, maybe there's e4. But then there's like knight d2, and if d5 is there c4? No? It's saying there's something really good for white. Actually don't know. Maybe f3. Yeah, it's f3. You just chip away and like the rook. Sorry, I'm just saying random pieces. Holy crap. But the pawn is pinned to the rook because of the knight. There we go. We got our idea across. A5, the default random move, was not played. The move was rook e1. Rook e1. Wait, the move here. What was the move here? It was knight e7, rook e1, and bishop d7. Okay, I can respect that. And then, of course, Scott moves immediately. Just plays knight d2. Goes knight d2. I guess you're just trying to go to the e4 square, which is understandable. I mean, isn't knight f5 just really good here, though? I think that's his idea. Tanish's idea, from this position. I think he wanted to go, knight e7, knight f5. So he just drops his knight back, then drops his bishop back, and then goes knight f5 to attack the rook. So there. Right, knight d2, knight f5. Attacking the rook. Yeah, sorry, if you hear the occasional text message, it's probably Jason. To that point, y'all should be fine with, Jason just feeding me insights. Rook to f3 is on the board. Rook f3 and Tanish immediately goes bishop c6. Wow, the rook is not really safe. I guess you have knight e4, which kind of clutches up, just blocking, but, otherwise you'd have to go like rook h3, and it's just like not really ideal. Yeah, knight e4 is probably the move here. We'll see if he plays it. Or he just goes rook h3, which will be kind of... Oh, is rook h3 the move? Okay, either of them are fine. Rook h3, they're actually like... if you have if you've never been to Jason's house, you have no context about this message. They're both making noise in the farting chair. So, do with that comment as you will. All right, so what happened? Bishop c6. He decided to go to h3. Okay, that is understandable. Well, I say it because the engine says it's fine. Scott hanging in there. Jason also tells me that Scott is hungover, so there's a little bit of irony in there. But yeah, yeah. Scott is hanging in there. No, he's playing a pretty solid game. I would have thought on the previous move, like knight e4, makes a little bit more sense. I guess, to be fair, the rook is still kind of trapped anyway, so you might as well just move it. And I guess you don't really have a great way to necessarily trap the rook. I mean, if I go pawn to g4, I might be in time to play, like... I don't know, actually. g5 is actually a tough move to sort of counter, I think. Maybe after g5, g4, there's like rook h5, but king g3? But yeah, he is hanging in there. We'll see how he does. G4 counters, maybe. Yes. Oh, G4 counter. I see what you're saying. Yeah, G4, I might be worried about giving them the H4 square. Okay, we're going to see what happens. He played G5. G5 is on the board. Now, for G4, I would be worried about maybe, like, Knight H4. Yes, no, I see what you're saying. No, I thought you were, like, telling me to look for ideas, like, you know, G4 counters, maybe? Like, you know, just, like, you get it? It's, like, you know, sorry, I'm distracted. I'm also texting Jason, you know, giving him insights and things like that. G4, I'd be worried about Knight H4, and, you know, there's, like, sort of pressure on the F3 square. Also, Bishop G2, I think, is straight up a threat. Maybe not. Maybe there's, like, Rook E3. That's a good idea, though. He's hanging overing in there. That's funny. But, yeah. So, G5, so I think the threat, if black does nothing, if white does nothing. Okay, what am I telling you? They're moving quick. We can't even analyze. He goes Bishop D1. Actually, it's a pretty tenacious defense. Yeah, Bishop D1 is a good move. No. Well, I see what you're... That's a good idea, Matt, to go, like, G4 to just kind of physically stop G5. But yeah, I think what I was worried about was just that the H4 square is, you know, in use now, and that you just have that outpost. Which sometimes having a knight, even an edge outpost, can be really good. It's a little ironic because... you know, it's on the edge, but it's also just, you know, really good. Rook is misplaced. No, you are absolutely correct. The rook is very misplaced. Bishop D1's on the board. Bishop D1. They're moving too quickly. These guys have 45 minutes. Knight H4. Yeah, so Concho chess, what happened is black took, and white just took with the rook, which allows Bishop F5. And then, you know, because of this pawn, you are forced to go Rook E3. And then, you know, TANISH eventually attacks the rook, and he decides to go this way. How'd Pan Am's go? Yeah, Pan Am's was alright. Yeah, Baylor did okay. You know, struggled a little bit, but it was a trip. G3 is on the board. And so... Wait, isn't Bishop G2... Wait. He made a move, but... Doesn't Bishop G2 just trap the rook? Yeah. He missed it, by the way. Come on, they're playing too quickly! Yeah, Bishop G2 is just a rook trap. Oh, no, it's not. Wait, what? What's the move here? Am I dumb? Oh, you sack the rook. Okay. I do want to see what happens here. I know they made some moves. I think it's Bishop D7. Yeah, there's a rook trap. It's just the other way. Dhruv is Daniel's favorite person now. That's funny. So, yes, very much. Definitely not misinformation. So, G3. So, what's going on? There are a lot of moves that happened. So Bishop D1 was on the board. Knight H4, G3, Knight G6 is on the board. And now Bishop H5, Rook F8. Okay, so Rook F8's on the board, and Bishop takes G6. They're moving way too quickly. And I imagine King takes is going to be played any second. Yep. All right, so let's take stock of the position. It's balanced, but black has a really strong bishop. White has an okay knight, I guess, that could hop into, like, F3. Sorry, not F3, E4. I was thinking about two different concepts, how the knight couldn't go to F3, but can go to E4. And yes, as Concho Chess Academy pointed out earlier, the rook is very misplaced. And actually, I don't see, like, you gotta prevent Bishop D7. You know, the rook is trapped. Maybe G4? I'm not exactly sure. Wait, moves were played quickly. The problem when I play kids is I'm drinking and they aren't. G4 is on the board. Yeah, G4 is actually the best move. That's actually a good find because, like, you have to prevent your rook from getting trapped. TANISH immediately, for once it's TANISH making the immediate move, not Scott. Just goes rook f4. Which threatens to win the pawn. Not necessarily, you know, I guess f3. I guess f3 is the move. That's what I assume. Well, that's what he played. So, yeah, now f3 kind of a little bit blunts the bishop. Black may try to go like rook f8 and just try to like pile up pressure here. It's kind of unclear. So we'll see what happens. All right. I think this is a good time to breathe. Well, actually not, because... Wait. Okay. I guess not. They're just going to play quickly and not give the commentator a rest. So black played rook to f8, pressuring the pawn. White played rook f1, protecting the pawn. All right. Brilliant commentary. I will be right back, regardless of how quickly they move. And then we'll commentate the remainder of the game. By the way, time check. Scott has 34 minutes left. TANISH has 26. So I'll see you in a second. All right, I'm back. Frustrating. The king can't help on g2. Yeah, that's true. There's a nasty pin. So moves were played. Actually, not a lot. Not as much as I thought there would be. d5 is on the board, which prevents the knight from going to e4. I guess is good. Also, you're probably looking to crack with like e4 maybe. Rook g3 is on the board. So... Plus the pawn is hanging on d3. Yeah, exactly. The pawn is hanging on d3, potentially. I'm not sure which line you're talking about, but... Wow, e4. He doesn't even think. What's TANISH on? Like, he's kind of like channeling his inner Scott. Like, not calculating, just playing e4, just by feel. You know, we can try to take time to calculate, but I'm not exactly sure we're going to have the time to do that. Are you single? Okay, so if f takes, then I think, you know, rook takes, knight takes. You force the knight to a poor square, and then, you know, after takes, you don't really have the bandwidth to capture the pawn on e4. It's a protected pass pawn. So, you know, the question might be, I guess it really goes, like, same way. D takes, E takes. Okay, so he plays E3. Wait, no, wait. D4, E3. Ooh, this is a problem. This is a problem because you now have a passed pawn on E3. The knight does not have a lot of good squares. You can't really... You have to, like, just go away from the pawn, kind of weirdly. You have to go, like, knight b3. And then you start to calculate, can I just go e2? And then, you know, rook e1, take. Because I believe if rook takes, there's not really mate, though. So e2 might be a little bit rushed. So TANISH immediately goes bishop b5. Wow. Okay. So bishop b5 is the move. And it's just gonna, I guess, force the rook off of the defense of the pawn. All right, good for him. I think Tanish just won a pawn and likely won the game, or is gonna win the game. We'll see what happens, but rook e1, and I expect Tanish to just snap take the pawn. I need to like adjust this a little bit. There we go. So yeah, he'll snap take the pawn most likely. Might just take a second, but if I'm Scott, what do I try? So rook takes f3 is coming. I assume he's gonna trade. I'm not even sure you need to trade. Like, I don't know if it's like mandatory to like hold. Maybe you can go like king g2. But then like rook check is not fun. I think you have to trade. And just try to see if, you know, you can, like, hold this position. Like, oh, wow, he doesn't trade. Whoa, he takes. Okay, that's a blunder. I want to know why. I'm going to try to calculate. I'm going to see it before Tanner sees it. Rook f1, king g2. I think there's check, king h3. And there's like a rook h1 some move with like bishop f1 is the idea. Sorry, the move was takes. You can also maybe like just take one of the rooks and then go check. But I think king g2 and you run out of steam. Okay, so Tanish plays after rook takes e3. He goes check, which is the move, and I saw it. I didn't necessarily see it before him, but I declared it. Now, oh, there's no bishop f1 because the rook's there. I'm dumb, but check, king h3. Oh, no, never mind. I did say rook h1. So I think we're going to see a line with check, rook h3. Sorry, king h3, and then rook h1. And the king is just getting hunted. Dang. Wow. What a turn of events. It really went from like tense, black is slightly better, but white's holding on. They just have an awkward rook, to this. Like, white's just getting mated here. So, yep. Okay, he goes this rook to f2. Okay, that's also fine. King h3, there's bishop f1, essentially mate. If king g1, I mean, is he going to repeat? Or maybe he just takes on b2. Just like, you know, I'm just going to dominate the board. I would still go, I'm just going to play this out. I think I would still just go, like, check. I just want to make sure it's fine and go here. Yeah, that's completely winning. And then, yeah, the only move is rook e6, king f7. It's saying rook G to e3, but then you take, and like, yeah, you're just getting sauced. Tanish decides to go, so rook 1 to f2, king g1, rook takes b2. What happened at Pan Am's? What happens at Pan Am stays at Pan Am's. So rook takes b2. You're threatening the a pawn, but also the rook has the potential to double and just take all the pawns. White has a sliver? I think it's sliver. Maybe a sliver of hope with, like, you know, a rook e6 check counterplay, but, like, seems like black is just dominating the game. I guess Tanish just decided to take it a different direction, which is that, you know, he's just going to put the rooks on the 7th rank, or the 2nd rank from that perspective. Rook e6 check, king g7 on the board. He can play rook e7, but I'm imagining Tanish will just go, I assume not king f6. King f6 actually doesn't make a lot of sense. Engine says king g8, which is absolutely insane. So, we'll see. Rook f1. Well, it is it's white's move, and white went check. So king g8 just avoids the checks, and like, you know, yeah, like, oh yeah, rook f1 is a threat. Did I not mention that? Yeah, actually I didn't. I totally missed that. I'm bad at chess. I suck. But yeah, king g8. And yeah, the move to like not get made is like rook e1, c4. Yeah, he just goes rook e1. But now TANISH will just probably either take another pawn, maybe just go here, continue to dominate, and it is close to GG. All right. I think we are close to the conclusion of this game. I mean, who knows how much longer it'll last. You know, I'm sure like Scott will try to like hold up some resistance for a while, but yeah, it really just went like, you know, just like full 180, just like, would that be 180 technically, like 180 degrees if it's like, if it went from equal, it would actually be 90 degrees, wouldn't it be? Or am I just dumb? Because 180 would be from like white winning from +5 to like -5. I feel like 90 degree would be equal to like, you know, so I guess it went full 90, but I don't know. I'm not a geometrist, so, you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Rook takes a2, knight c5 on the board. You know, knight looks good on c5 in a lot of positions. This would be a great outpost. The problem is you're just down 2 pawns and getting destroyed, so quite unfortunate. Quite unfortunate. All right. Well, thank you all. Well, I was about to just say thank you all for stopping by, acting like the stream was ending, even though it's not. So I don't want to give that sort of... I'm just, you know, just always appreciate, you know, the audience just coming in, talking about moves, talking about other things. TANISH plays b6. Like, is there any miracle for Scott? Like, the problem is knight e6, like, blocks your own rook. So if you can get construction with, like, this, you know, you can, like, take and go, like, rook g7, then, like, maybe. Like, cool, knight e6 attacks the rook, but they're just going to go rook f2 and completely dominate you. So, you know, I don't think there's really a miracle necessarily. I mean, who knows? Like, he could just blunder. You know, TANISH could just blunder somehow, but seems like there's not much to play for. Rook e8. If you trust the engine at all, losing the thread a little bit, but he has to play rook h3. He does not. So rook h3 attacks the pawn. It doesn't seem easy to defend. Because king h7, there's knight takes g5. He plays this. And now... I mean, this is being attacked. Rook e8's weird. I don't know why you just don't go here. Like, I'm not trying to criticize the guy. I'm just like, you know, it just seems more natural. I guess you're worried about the pawn hanging, and maybe you just don't necessarily, like... I guess I can get it, but... now the rooks can't really double on that rank. White still has the g3 awkward rook to defend a little. The g3 awkward rook... yeah, that's true. That awkward rook is, you know, kind of saving the day. Woo! Yeah, exactly. I assume that's what you're going for. You know, I like sarcastic, like the rook was awkward on g3, but now it's like helping out. If I totally missed the point, let me know. But, you know, Not exactly the smoothest from TANISH, but it's also easy to say when you look at the engine, though. Like, I think actually, like, if I just look at it without the engine, like, I mean, it seems fine. Maybe just, like, I mean, it seems like his conversion's been okay so far. I do think even without the engine, I would just go, like, here without thinking. And, you know, if I don't win that game, I just don't deserve to, like, you know, yeah. So, we'll see what happens. Scott's maybe getting his act together. Knight c7 could be a threat. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, you got it. Nice. I'm always glad when I sort of understand people's sense of humor. Okay, c6 is on the board. Very understandable, just trying to, like, keep all the pawns. And, of course, there's always, you know, if this knight's not there, ideas are like c5, you know, takes, and d4, and a pass pawn's created. So there's that. You know, again, does white have a miracle? I'm just trying to see if there's, like, you know, can I get to, like, f5 somehow and make things weird? But no, I actually really like c6. c6 is just so prophylactic. Maybe I just go, like, knight c7 if I'm white. I do trade off a pair of rooks, but I have ideas to go, like, rook e8, rook e7, just make things a little interesting. But I'm not sure. The problem is I can't really double because I have a bishop. Sorry, the opponent has a bishop. Maybe I go, like, here, and then... But then the knight, hey, I don't know. Rook h3 is how Scott decides to sort of, like, generate the counterplay. Time to go back to the weekend's rook h3, yes. The rook has kind of been toggling, you know, right? Yeah, if you go back from, like, you know, just look at that rook's journey. You go rook e4, boom, it moves again. Just keep an eye on this guy. It moves, it moves. Yeah, that rook has had quite the journey. I told Jason that chat is making fun of Scott's h3 rook. So, yeah, so rook h3, it could be the clutch, or if TANISH just messes up. I'm not looking at the engine lines. I don't necessarily see what the move is, but a move that looks very interesting is rook e2, because it kind of interferes with the defense of the knight. And after rook e2, rook takes, bishop takes, you know, the knight, I guess he can take h6 though and protect the knight. So I was looking at, like, you know, this takes, and there's still an attack, but I think I can take. That's funny. So yeah, actually, like, rook h3, maybe confusing the audience, as they would say, right? Also, I'm feeling better, by the way. Like, I thought I was having a cold, like, earlier. Now I just feel a little better. I'm just tired because I'm on little sleep. But I think I'm feeling good. So we'll see how long that lasts. But yep. King h7 would run into knight g5. That would not be ideal if you are TANISH. I think TANISH is in a little bit of a tough spot. I actually don't know what the move is. Maybe it's bishop e2. Is it bishop e2? It is bishop e2. Is that the only move? Okay, it's not the only move. Wow, he plays rook e2, which is the move I had suggested initially. And maybe Tanish, like, played it, sees it, realizes it loses the pawn, but it's fine. But after rook e2, white can take the rook. And after bishop takes, just go rook takes h6 anyway. And then also, like, g5 is hanging. Like, it's a little bit unclear. I think black is still... Yeah, bishop e2 was sort of the move to find because you still do the same job of interfering the rook and the bishop. Sorry, the rook and the knight. But you don't allow a trade, which is kind of the difference. So yeah, bishop e2 is a really good move. Rook e2, on the other hand, is okay. Does g4 not fall? I guess that's true, but I think the problem... I think, like, you know, there's, like, a concrete line. Like, rook takes, bishop takes, here, here. I mean, you can go... I think the problem is you're just loose. I think it's, like, even knight c7. And, like, this is attacked. You know... I was just trying to look at it without the engine, but I can... So, takes... I will likely reach this line. Takes... Oh yeah, just knight takes g4 even. Oh yeah, there's that. And I think, yeah, there's a problem of, like, you know, just, like, all the pawns being on the 6th rank is just, like, you know, they're just prime targets. So in this particular position, black shouldn't take the pawn, but that's a good observation. What he should do, I don't know. I don't know what to do without just turning on the engine, but maybe, like, king f7, attacking the knight or something like that. Wait, what? After rook e2, he didn't go into that line. He went here. Excuse me? You go rook h3, Tanish plays rook e2, and you're like, oh, Lord, King Tanish, I didn't realize you could play such a good move. I'm just gonna go back with my rook. Rook e2, rook e3. Rook takes, and then I think this knight is just, like, gonna, like, pinned. Can be rounded up, like, c5 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had his opportunity to make things weird with, like, you know, just trading and then taking h6. Sorry. So that's not the game variation. The game variation is rook e2, rook e3, which is not a very good move. Takes. Oh, not even c5. Just king f7 just wins the knight. Okay, that's why it's like, that's why the eval's that. And it looks like Tanish will probably move to 2-0. We'll see, you know, how much longer Scott sort of, like, holds resistance for, but it's pretty clear. Not only are you going to be up the piece, but you're up the 2 pawns. You can play, like, c5 or something like that. I mean, a5's just passed, so you're just, like, you know, c5 followed by queenside pawn promotion. Yeah, there's just, like, a lot of ways to sort of win. Just, you know, he'll take. If he trades rook, it's very straightforward. He played rook e2. Tanish just plays bishop takes e2. I assume we see resignation within 5 seconds. Yeah, yep, it's there. So I see O-1. Game over. Will they play 4 games? Yes. They will play rounds 3 and 4 Thursday evening. Unfortunately, I very likely can't commentate that round or those games, but maybe I'll do, like, a video recap that'll just go out, you know, that night. I don't know, but yeah, game 2 was very interesting. It kind of, like, took some wild turns. I mean, starting with, like, the kind of crazy, just, like, queen c1, bishop h6. And then just, like, you know, just, like, pieces were traded. Black was always just slightly better, but white was, sort of hanging on. We have sort of the meme now of this goofy rook on e4, just being just kind of tossed around all game. And then just eventually, suddenly, Tanish just plays e4 and just doesn't let up. So I guess this would be the critical moment. I think they moved so quickly, we never even sort of discussed, like, what the best move was. Oh, you know what I think it is? No, it's not. It's not that. I do think you just take, maybe. I think it's maybe takes. I think it's takes, rook takes, knight takes, pawn takes. It's not that. Wait, what do you do here? You go d4. Okay. Oh, and then there's like this. Okay, that's kind of hard to see though. But yeah, I see where that's coming from. But yeah, I do think e4, even though like I kind of made fun of him for playing it very quick, it is a really good move because it kind of just forces him to make a tough decision. And then just like that, on one move, he just plays, just allows the rooks to infiltrate, and then Scott looks like he had one more chance to make it interesting had he just traded and then taken on h6, because you can't really take the pawn g4 because of knight g5. Apparently only a5 or bishop d3 are just completely winning. So, but that didn't happen. We saw rook e3, and then, Tanish finds the correct sequence of moves. I think you can take either rook, but he takes this one to make the rook farther away. King f7. Rook e2, bishop takes e2, and Tanish, just like that, goes up 2-0 in the match. So we will see how games 3 and 4 go. As I indicated earlier, I probably can't commentate, but we'll see if we can get some content, or maybe someone else will commentate. Who knows? But, looks like we had a decent amount of viewers. I think we got up to like 9 viewers or something like that, which is always solid, especially for kind of like, just, streaming on and off. It's been, pretty, it's been fun. It was a fun stream. So, I don't know if anyone has any like closing thoughts. I'm always happy to hear them, but we will probably be going here in a few minutes. Very interesting. Yeah, for sure. It was indeed an interesting fight. Tanish is up 2-0. Probably will win the match. He was definitely the favorite before. But now more than ever, Scott is really on his heels if he wants to win. Maybe he'll just be content winning a game and possibly, like, not losing as much rating. But, alright. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all for the next stream. Who knows when. Just have a great rest of your evening. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. All right.